All right, we are live. Welcome, DoorGrow hackers, to the DoorGrow Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing your business and life, and you are open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a DoorGrow hacker. DoorGrow hackers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management businesses and their owners. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow. Now let's get into the show. And today's guest, I have with me the wise, experienced property management guru, Todd Breen. So Todd, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jason. It's awesome to be here.
So Todd, you are talking to us live right now from Manila, right?
That's correct. I spend a few months a year here working with our team, and been enjoying my time here and getting a lot of work done. It's an honor to be on your show all the way from around the world.
And now it's a tropical island though, right?
It is. Yeah, it's actually the cooler season right now, so it's similar to where I live in Florida. It's just nice weather. Yeah.
Right. So maybe there's a little bit of fun in it for you while you're there too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I played golf today while you guys were sleeping.
Yeah, nice. So cool. So Todd, today we are going to be talking about outsourcing roles for small, medium, and large companies. And so perhaps there's some differences there. And connected to, VirtuallyIncredible. So tell everybody what is your thinking behind outsourcing in general. So, I mean, this is a topic that used to be taboo, right? It used to be like a bad word. Like they're outsourcing. It's not, you're not using people in the US. You're like some sort of evil entrepreneur. And I think the temperature has shifted. So
it has. I first started outsourcing 8 years ago in 2010. And back in those days, I got a lot of raised eyebrows and funny looks. And now when people hear that we're outsourcing to the scale that we are, a lot of people are like, wow, that's awesome. How can I save some money and improve my business operations in the process? So it's really matured nicely. And, the topic today is about how to get it right if you're going to try and outsource, whether you're a small, medium, or large business. I'm really excited to share what I've learned in 8 years of helping small, medium, and large businesses outsource. And I've seen what's worked and what hasn't. And so in this, I'm going to just lay it out for you and say, hey, if you've tried and failed in the past, I can probably pinpoint how that happened, and we'll do it in a very simple grid that I've made for you guys. And if you're a first timer and you want to get it done right the first time, we're going to explain the rules for you on what it takes to do it right and to pick the right outsourcing solution.
Yeah. So anyone that's listened to this show knows we've had a few different companies that help with like either VAs or outsourcing or finding assistants or things. I've revealed multiple times, I've had my fair share of failures. So I've had team members in India, Bolivia, Philippines, and right now the bulk of my team are in the US because I've had so many struggles dealing with a lot of that. But we're now ourselves getting back into hiring and sourcing some talent in the Philippines to build out, to add greater support for my team and my staff. And so, our team has helped your team with some branding work and shiny new logo. So check out VirtuallyIncredible's new shiny logo. I'm really liking it. And we also helped out hire smart VAs and have cleaned up their branding. And so it's been awesome getting familiar with people that are making a difference in the space of property management. But you're also making a difference in the lives of people in the Philippines.
When I grew up in a real estate business, and my dad was a very busy real estate broker, very successful, and he was working days, nights, and weekends, and he was always answering the phone. Because he couldn't afford not to answer the phone, because the lifeblood of any real estate business is answer the phone, get a listing, answer a phone, rent or sell your listing, right? And so, I have a real passion now with my 4 kids to give them a better quality of life as 3rd generation property management company. And they just look at me and say, Dad, how did you do it before you could outsource your leasing lines, or before you could have your own private virtual assistant that was full-time helping you? And I said, yeah, it was a lot of hard work, and now it's a lot of smart work. And so, let me get into what the rules are, so that the viewers will have an idea what it takes to get the right solution for you, no matter what stage of business you're in. So is it all right with you if I share my screen?
Yeah, just make sure that you can share your screen if you have the thing installed. Just make sure we're talking through it, because some people will just be hearing this. So,
okay. So I'm sharing my screen. I'm going here. I'm hitting play. And tell me if you can see my slides.
Yep, I see them.
So if you're a small business, you're all 3 of what a business needs, because a business needs an entrepreneur that actually is the driving force behind the business, a people manager, and task-oriented people, or employees that actually perform the tasks needed to get the job done at a business. Me, I'm an entrepreneur, always have been my whole life, and I struggled building my management company with one thing, and that was managing my staff. I was pretty good at managing owners and tenants, right?
Yeah.
But you don't work every day, all day, 8 hours a day with your owner and your tenant. You get intermittent relationships with them. You have to actually build a relationship with your team. And whether it's in-house, whether it's onshore, whether it's offshore, if you can't manage people, then my aha moment was I needed a people manager. And on this screen, I'm listing the things that a people manager needs. They're good at caring for their staff. And me as an entrepreneur, that's not in my DNA. I'm like, I'm not going to trouble you with my troubles, and I appreciate it if you wouldn't trouble me with yours. Entrepreneurs are not the warm, fuzzy people managers. People managers are good at coaching, communicating, development. They take an interest in the development of the staff. And I've got a graphic on the screen, and there's things that a people manager does. Number 1, they know me. Number 2, they focus on me and help me to focus. Number 3, they care about me as a person. And when all 3 of those things happen, they inspire me to do my best. And so there's a long list of things that people managers do, but that inspiration in getting into the minds and hearts of the team and building a team is what a people manager does. So I'm going to just share with you.
Just to back that up, what I'll say is I see this a lot. Like, that's what I get to do all day long, is I've talked to hundreds of different property management entrepreneurs. And it's, it's pretty common that they're, especially when they get into that 200 to 400 door range, they end up in this pitfall where they now have a team, and they're trapped because they're trying to manage this team, and they have this to-do list that's ever growing and endlessly long, and everything on their to-do list that have been sitting there for more than 2 weeks, it's probably there because they're not the person that should be doing it. And then they end up with they're in a situation in which they are they're not natural managers. It's just not who they are. And and so they end up in a difficult situation in which they're not managing well. And so the team's not performing well, and then they're blaming the team.
And they're really in the wrong role. An entrepreneur is very rarely a people manager. If you meet an entrepreneur who's an awesome people manager, you're looking at that, one in 1,000 entrepreneurs or one in 100. I mean, it's rare to see somebody who's a gifted entrepreneur and a wonderful people manager. And
yeah, usually if they are really good people managers, they're not so great at the entrepreneurism. Like the sales side of the business is struggling. They're really nice to people, but they're not making money a lot
And
of
so
times.
on the screen, I've got a picture of my wife and I right now. And my wife is the consummate, ultimate people manager. She's tremendous at managing people, right? We have a team of well over 150 here in the Philippines. And they all kind of think of her as the mother goose or mother hen, or but they love and respect her, and they'll do for her above and beyond because they're inspired by her. And it's awesome for me to see that, because I don't have that skill set, and it's wonderful. It defines our company. And so let me explain to you why that's so important. If you are a small business, okay, you're the entrepreneur and you hire your first staff member. Maybe it's a property manager, maybe it's a secretary or a receptionist, maybe it's an inspector or a work person, a handyman. As soon as you start managing people and you're not a people manager, that's what keeps most property management businesses in the 0 to 200 doors, because you can't scale beyond 200 doors without hiring a significant number of people. And whether you hire them yourself or you outsource them, it's up to you, but you need people to blow past 200 doors, right?
Yeah.
And so the companies that get from 150, 200 doors and grow up to 500 doors, they have to develop a people manager and get reliable people that work for them. And there's ways that you can get a people manager. You can hire one directly. And by the way, if you are 500 or more doors, the companies that are 800, 1,000, 2,000 doors, let me tell you something. They have a people manager on staff.
Sometimes multiple.
Yeah. And that people manager is the reason why they've hit that level. All right. And that's the missing ingredient. And everyone says, how do I grow my management company? And I say, well, there's two ways to grow your management company. One is add more doors, but at some point you're going to need to add a people manager. And so you can actually rent a people manager, or you can hire one depending on how you outsource. And that's one of the keys to today's lessons is, hey, if I'm at 100 doors and all I really want to do is get to 200 because the cash flow just looks so amazing, then I want to go to 300. How do I best do it? And there's some real super rules that I'm going to walk you through on how to do that. And if I've switched screens here now for those who are listening, if you don't have a people manager, you'll have staff turnover. Okay, like more than you want staff turnover. You'll notice that it's easier to get bad reviews than it is to get good reviews, because you don't have inspired staff on your team, right? You're going to hit a slower growth process, because normally what happens is the entrepreneur grows the business to the first 100, 200 doors. And then unless the entrepreneur replaces him or herself and stays working in BDM or business development and growth, then they're going to slow down on their growth, and they won't know what to do to kickstart the growth because they're so busy putting out fires because they're not a people manager. And their lifestyle will suffer, and they'll say, I'm not having any fun. What were you saying?
Yeah. So I love what you're referring to inspired staff. And I heard this phrase several years ago that's always stuck with me, that I believe is true, that I love sharing with people connected to this. And it's, whenever we fail to inspire, we always control.
Yeah.
Whenever we fail to inspire, we always control. And so what ends up happening is, as entrepreneurs, because we're generally really driven, risk averse. I mean, I'm not risk averse, but risk oriented somewhat. And we're willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. And sometimes we're more sales oriented and driven. By default, if we're not able to get people to do things, we start just controlling. And the opposite is to make they're inspired and they just do it. And so you'll end up with these business owners that are trying to micromanage, push their team, control them, force goals on them, and they aren't inspired to do any of it. And these are the team members that are B players. That's the only ones that will stick around in a situation like that. And they're the ones that are complaining about you, the boss, and they go home and live for the weekend. And they're just hoping to get a paycheck. And so that creates a company culture of hiders. They're hiding.
Yeah. And they're hiding even when they're at work. They might hide behind their voicemail. But so what's the solution? We pointed out that if you are a small business and you want to go to large, at some stage you're going to need a people manager. So you can actually hire a local people manager, which might cost you $50,000 or $80,000, depending on where you are, or you can hire a virtual people manager for some of the tasks at your business. And by doing that, you're now a well-rounded business. You have the entrepreneur, you have the virtual and local employees, and you have a virtual people manager. And so this is why I'm going to talk with you guys about a few different, and I'm going to pop out of my slides are in a different order than what I want to talk about, so bear with me. I'm just going to pop over. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys to rate your business. How do you rate for systems? All right, if you're listening to this right now, am I systemized, yes or no? And if the answer is, yeah, I've got a system for everything. And if I hire somebody, I sit them at a desk and they can open a training manual and they can open a policies and procedures manual, and all of the answers are there. If the answer is that you've got your policies, procedures, and systems set up, then you're halfway there to being able to onboard people. A lot of people, small business owners and entrepreneurs, they do the trial by fire. They'll hire somebody, sit them at the desk and say, figure it out. And if the person survives, then they walk through the fire. And if not, they burn up, burn out, or they leave, or they get fired. And that's all due to a lack of systems, policies, and procedures. Now, what I've seen is that in the 0 to 150 doors, unless you have a franchise that has they've given you every system that you could imagine, and even some that you don't need, and then you've tailored them to your local market, unless you're one of those people who has bought or created your own systems, policies, and procedures, then from 0 to 150, you're winging it and you're figuring it out yourself, and it's all in your head. And if you're listening to this and you say, yeah, that's me, well, then what's going to happen whether you hire a local staff or a virtual staff and it's all in your head?
Yeah. And I think for those listening, they can break it down even further, because in a business, there's not just like one system. A lot of people think I just need a process system for processes, but every business needs some sort of sales system in their business, they need a communication system as a team in order to communicate effectively. They need a planning system in their business, which a lot of businesses don't really have, for setting goals and milestones and allowing people to know what outcomes are being worked towards. They need an accounting system, and they need a process system, if I didn't already say that, for documenting and capturing all the processes, whether it's a manual or something like Process Street. And they need a support system for managing all the customer requests and everything else. And so they might be a 10 on one of these and a 1 on another. And it really takes all of these different systems. And then you need processes for all of it documented. So
what happens is in the 0 to 150, most entrepreneurs still haven't even started with these systems.
Yeah.
And from the 150 to 500, they slowly come to realize that these systems are going to make me or break me. And by the way, We've outsourced for large businesses that are over 500 and they still have horrible systems, horrible policies, horrible procedures, and believe it or not, really, really interesting staff. And that's a nice way to put it.
And that's probably like the norm, which is sad. It's occasionally you'll see the converse side where you'll see somebody that is super systems oriented entrepreneur, and they're basically an operator trying to function as the CEO, and they will focus so much on process and operations and systems, and they have no revenue.
They're not growing, and so if you're good at systems, give yourself a pat on the back with your policies and procedures. And the next we're going to talk about is your HR. All right. If you're going to grow your business and scale it and have quality and lifestyle, you have to have HR that can find good people. Then you have to get those people trained. And training does not mean you sit at the desk and figure it out. It means, like, before we put people to work on their tasks, nobody goes to work with less than 1 week of training. And that's 40 hours of specific human training. And it's a live trainer training somebody with what's our business, what's our vision, mission, values, what's our, and then how do you do the actual tasks that you've been hired to do. And then supervision is, quality assurance and et cetera. If you have all of those things, probably you're closer to 500 or more doors. If you're missing any of those things, you're probably in that 0 to 400 doors. And you could say, well, I'm good at some, but man, I got major holes in others. And so that really impacts how you should outsource. And that's why I wanted to show you guys. So I've got a graph up on the screen, and the graph talks about if I am rough on my systems or rough on my HR. In other words, if I didn't rate myself high on that last 5 minutes of conversation, how should I outsource? And the answer is you have 3 choices. You can hire your own virtual assistant direct by going to the destination country, for instance, the Philippines, wherever, and you can run your ad and try and hire somebody. Not recommended for anybody of any size if they're rough on their systems or rough on their HR for obvious reasons, right?
Yeah, setting them up for failure.
Yeah, and I see people say, well, I don't need a reseller or a turnkey. I'll just do it myself. And I'm like, well, how are you doing with your systems and your HR with your onshore operations? Because that's going to directly impact or give you an insight into how your offshore is going to be. And then they look at me and say, yeah, not so good. I said, well, running out of the country is going to make it better. And so the first option is hire your own virtual staff direct. The second is hire a VA reseller, which is either a recruiter or somebody who will actually stick around after they recruit for you.
Yeah.
And then the third option is, hey, I just want a turnkey solution that will take care of it for me. In other words, I want staff, but I'm paying you to also provide me good systems and processes and good HR, because I don't have that yet. And in fact, I don't think I'm going to have it anytime soon, because I'm busy in that 0 to 150 doors, just getting volume and growing my business. So if I can figure out a way to affordably get good systems and HR brought into me by outsourcing, man, that sounds like a dream job to me, right? So this tells you that turnkey is your number one solution. So if you can go to somebody that offers turnkey outsourcing and just give them some processes or systems or some of the workflow from your business, and then it's called set it and forget it, and just manage the results, you'll be thrilled, all right? If you hire a reseller, you may or may not be thrilled based on how well systemized those systems are for the work that you give. Have you got a system, a policy, and procedure for the specific work that you're giving? And or how good are you at managing onshore staff, and how well do you think you could manage some offshore staff?
Right.
And, now let me go to the next screen, all right, which is a hiring guide if you have good systems already in place and you have a people manager. In my case, my wife, in your case, if you have somebody who's a good people manager, wow, what should I do? And the answer is the world is kind of your oyster. You can do turnkey from 0 to 150, and that allows you to just focus on growing your business. And then when you start hiring locally from 150 to 600 doors, it means that it's one less thing to worry about. Now, 600 or more doors, you'd be looking at a big bill from a turnkey operator, and you'd be saying, look, I can do this myself. I should take this over in-house with either my own VA resellers, right, where I pay a recruiter to hire me an offshore staff, or by going to the destination country yourself to hire, which can all be done virtually, or you can actually take some trips depending on how far away you go. But good systems, good HR, and a people manager is important before you start hiring individual offshore staff that are going to report to you and work for you directly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So let me just pop out of this one more time.
Yeah, I think people really need to realize that they need to figure out what's the best fit and works for them. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people really early on is their default thought is, I need to go hire somebody like me right here in the US. That's like their first employee. They're like, I need to go get another me and duplicate myself. And they're doing like 20 different things. They're wearing 20 different hats. And so they go to try to hire, and they're not ready for that. They can't even bring on somebody. They really should start with technology, and they should start with outsourcing solutions like VirtuallyIncredible, because that you're bringing to the table a lot of the stuff they aren't even aware of that they might need yet.
Yeah. Well, so, one of the things that I outsourced at my management company, and for those who are listening who aren't aware, I've had a property management company since 1985. And I used to absolutely hate answering my leasing calls, because I knew if I didn't answer them during the day, then I had to return calls. And I knew if I didn't answer them in the evening or on the weekend, then I wasn't going to fill my vacancies, and I'd have to return more messages, play phone tag. And so, man, my phone was glued to my ear. And so I decided to outsource my leasing calls. And so many other managers heard about it and said, will you take my calls too? And it's such a systemized process with us that it's not like you could just hire somebody. If you're 120 doors, you can't hire somebody for what you pay us, because you're going to pay more for your outsourced people, and they'll only answer 40 hours a week, and we're answering 80 plus hours a week. So there's a stage at which it makes sense to take it over yourself, but there's a stage where you just say, get rid of this and let me focus on other stuff. And so let me talk about capacity in online reviews, because this is the DoorGrow show, and Jason, I'm one of your customers for the review. What's the software you have?
Gather Kudos.
Gather Kudos, thank you. I think we've had it for several years, and we have good reviews at my management company, and that's because we offer good service, and we ask for the reviews. And so seasonal workload variations can actually impact your reviews, and let me explain to you why. Let me see if I've got it here. Oops, okay. I'm going to show you what the variations look like. So this is what your work orders look like. This is from Super Tenders, all right? Hundreds of thousands of doors went into this. Can you still see the screen okay?
Yep.
Okay. So in January and until May, you don't have near the work orders that you do in June, July, August, September, and then it slows down a little bit again into the fall. And so you've literally got double the work orders between April and July. April is half of what July is. So how do you staff for that at your business?
Yeah, the question is, are you going to just double your staff and then fire half your staff every season?
Yeah. And so what happens is if you look at when you get your bad reviews from tenants who are tired of, work orders taking forever to get done, you're getting those reviews typically not in April, you're getting them in June, July, August, September. That's when the majority of bad reviews come in. And it's no secret, if you're not staffed for the increase in volume, you're going to have a problem. So at my company, at my management company, we use property meld to technology, really accelerates the communication process. And then we use easy repair hotline. And now I can outsource. I'm pretty good at it, but I hire somebody else to do my work order outsourcing because they're pretty good at it. And I haven't chosen to do that in the Philippines yet. And he's got a US-based team. So, I'm what do they call it about eating your own dog food or drinking your own Kool-Aid? I outsource to other people at my management company because it makes sense for me to do it. And I'm under 300 doors. So, I'm not at that stage where it makes sense for me to take it over. And the same goes for our leasing call volumes. This is data courtesy of VirtuallyIncredible. And this is our call volumes across the entire United States on a monthly basis. And you can see December is the slowest month of the year. Thank goodness, right? Going into the holidays. November, December are great. But literally there's double the volume between December and June. June is going to crush you. And people say, man, I can't answer all my calls, or my properties take longer to rent. It's because you're not really staffed to handle it right. This is called a heat map. And for those of you who are listening, it's a calendar Monday through Sunday, and it shows the darker hours of the day are when we have higher call volumes, and the lighter colors are lower call volumes. And so throughout the course of the week, on an 80 hours of answering your calls, days, evening, and weekends, there's a tremendous call volume variation between Monday all day. By the way, there is a reason why Mondays are Mondays. Your phone's going to ring with your highest call volume on your leasing calls on Mondays. But then compared to
from the weekend, because people aren't generally doing it over the weekend. So,
or they didn't get you on the weekend, it could be that too. Mm-hmm. But, Wednesday's a calm day. How do you staff for that? Right. When you're at 120 doors, when it's just all hands on deck at all times, when you're at that volume. So it makes sense to just say, hey, take my business, take my calls. When I grow to a certain stage, I'll take them back. And that's where people are able to make a tremendous good decision for their business, because if you're under capacity, understaffed, you're going to get bad reviews.
Yeah.
All right. If you have sufficient capacity at all times throughout the seasonal workload variations, you can get good reviews if you ask for them. Now, if you have too much capacity, too many staff, you'll get good reviews, but your profit will suffer. And so, managing that becomes a full-time job when you go past 500 or 600 doors. You'll start to do that yourself, but under that, it just makes sense to outsource some of this stuff. And it will save you a tremendous amount of time and money. It'll make getting good reviews easier. It'll make your staff happier to get rid of some of your high seasonal workload that varies a lot, and just outsource it until you're big enough to take it back in-house.
Yeah, and if you're built out to the point where you can handle the amount of seasonal growth and seasonal increase, then what happens during those lean times, you end up with team members that are sitting at unused capacity. And nobody likes being in a position or job in which they feel like they're meaningless or there's lack of purpose, except really bad team members that you wouldn't want. And so you're going to
they'll never tell you that they're not busy.
Yes. Yes, they will never say, "Oh, I have so much extra time right now. I'm probably not even relevant during these few months. I probably shouldn't be here." So yeah, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, and so if you're a small company and you're growing, this is the last part. I don't have slides for this, so I'll just maybe I'll stop sharing my screen if I know how to
Well, I'll
figure it out.
point out connected to that. It's not a great investment to have a team member that's sitting in the garage half the time not being used, right? And like imagine you live in a big city and you're taking the subway all the time and you have this expensive car that you're maintaining constantly, but you're not using. And so nobody wants to, it financially becomes incredibly costly to have a team that is underutilized.
Yeah,
And
you're
or a
telling me.
team, especially if they're US based staff, they're really expensive and you're just not able to use them. And so
Yeah,
you're
can you
spending the
imagine?
money, whether you're using them or not, but
Yeah,
they might
I
not be
mean,
making money.
can you imagine what it's like being me? I mean, we've got hundreds of staff, and our volume is following that curve, and yet we
Yeah.
figure out how to do it. So there's something I want to just share, and this is on a personal note from a guy who's grown a management company through a few cycles. All right, if you're in that 150 or less, all right, I want you to ask yourself: is it easy to get leads to grow my business? If it is, great. If it's not, check out DoorGrow. Check out some great ways to improve your leads. Second is, am I too busy to grow my business being an operator instead of being an owner? An owner knows how to grow a business and knows how to keep the capacity to grow the business open, because that's what it takes. And 60 or 70% of calls to a business are your leasing calls. And when you're sitting there answering somebody who says, "How much is that house with the red door?" and you're considering the brain damage that's giving you. Meanwhile, your phone's ringing on line 2, and it's an owner who has a nice listing, and you didn't get to that call, right? So if you're struggling to grow your business and you have leads, but you're not growing your business, man, clear your plate. Get rid of some of your work and grow your business. You can always take it back, right? And then work on reducing your labor costs. If you're in the stage of your business where, oh, I don't get enough leads, or I don't want to grow my business, well, then fine tune your business. That's great. But as long as you can grow and you want to grow, clear your plate, man, and move forward on growth, which is your highest dollar. People are valuing management companies at between $2,000 and $4,000 per door. So each new listing that you can sign up is going to increase your net worth, your asset value of your company by $2,000 or $3,000. All right. If you can get 5 new listings in a month, and that's worth $3,000 a listing, we're talking $10,000, $15,000 to grow. That's what you're increasing your net worth. You grow at that rate in a year, and you're up $150,000, $200,000 in your net worth. And it's all because you're focused on growth and you're clearing the decks to make it possible. That's what it takes to grow your business. And then as you bring in the new volume of work, decide carefully, should I insource or outsource? Do I have a people manager or don't I? What's the best way that's going to keep the machine moving forward? And that's what I tell people, because if they failed at outsourcing, I usually say, well, who's the people manager?
Yeah.
And when the entrepreneur says I am like, oh,
it didn't work for me. No, you just did it wrong.
Yeah. So did you learn something, Jason? I mean, for relative to your world and your life that you've been living with your outsourcing?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. All of this makes so much sense because I've over the last decade, I've had plenty of failures in outsourcing things or in trying to do things. And I think if I were to add one thing to this is one thing that has really helped me is to not underestimate or overestimate technology, because technology, like you mentioned, like Property Meld, for example, technology is another tool besides outsourcing that creates leverage and lowers operational costs and lowers staffing costs. And so a lot of people will try to go cheap on software. And I believe that when it comes to software, you want the best tools, the best software. So I spend a lot of money on software tools, and I buy the best. I don't buy the Swiss Army knife that can do everything crappily, or terribly, but I buy the best in each category to make sure we have the best systems for process or the best communication system in our business. And that allows my team to get more done and be more efficient and more effective. So if you're going to, whether you're going to outsource directly or you're going to outsource through companies, make sure that you have the best tools available software wise, because even if software costs you hundreds of dollars a month, people are always going to be more. And if you can give them the tools that they need to do the job well, you're collapsing your costs and making them far more efficient, and it always pays off.
Very, very true. And listen, if anyone has any questions about this, I'll just briefly tell you how we can help you at our company. We do answer your leasing calls. We also have a tenant screening department, and that scales too, because you get your number of applications in the summer is a heck of a lot more than it is in the winter. And so we do that. And those are full turnkey systems where you're actually putting a department into place, and you don't need a local department to do either of those tasks. In addition to that, we also have a brand new service where we'll hire an individual VA for you with or without phone skills. So you can get an admin VA, or you can get a CSR, a customer service rep, that can answer calls for you. And they're all screened by our company and trained in property management. I used to be a trainer for the Property Management Academy, and we put all of our people through all of that training now before they even show up at your job. So you get screening and training through our VA. If you'd like some more information, just send an email to todd@virtuallyincredible.com. Be happy to help you out however I can.
Awesome. So, and for those listening, when we put on our conference DoorGrow Live, we gave Virtually Incredible an award because they've consistently been one of the best in class, or the best in their category for what they do, and inside the DoorGrow Club and inside the feedback that we hear from clients. And so, it's not just my recommendation, it's a recommendation of a lot of people, and you provide a really good experience for people. So
thank you very much.
You and making a difference in the industry. So
thanks.
Well,
thanks.
cool.
Yeah, we're having a ball, and appreciate all you're doing to help people grow with creative ways that aren't obvious. I've been through some of your education. It's really high quality. Thank you for what you do.
Appreciate it. Well, cool. Well, Todd, thanks so much for coming on the show, and appreciate you sharing all this insight. I think there's some solid takeaways that people listening to this show. I think summarizing, start with technology, then start with getting, outsourcing to a solution like Virtually Incredible. And then maybe once you start getting some things dialed in, you might want to start bringing this stuff in-house eventually, but you may not. So if it's going well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
that's right.
Cool. Well, Todd, thanks again.
All right, guys, take care.
All right. So it's great having Todd on the show. Again, it should make sure to check out the previous episodes in which we talked about specifically about leasing lines and the challenges with those with Todd. And you can just search for Todd Breen and DoorGrow Show, one word. And then be sure to, if you are listening to this on iTunes, be sure to give us your feedback in iTunes. That helps us out, and also makes us aware of how you feel about the show. So we love getting your feedback on these different shows, and make sure you are inside our Facebook community where you can hang out with cool people like Todd and other really savvy entrepreneurs. And you can get to that by going to doorgrowclub.com. And this is a community unlike any other. It's a special community of property management business owners that believe in this vision and message that collaboration is more significant and important than competition in what this industry needs right now. And so if you love the idea of collaboration and helping level up the entire industry, which is going to help every property management business owner succeed and grow this business and industry and get more market share, then that's the place for you. That's your home. So join us in the DoorGrow Club. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And until next time, to our mutual growth. Bye, everyone.